I come from a broken home. So do you. We are all the sons and daughters of the Father of the universe. But who is our mother? God is our Father. He breathed life into the dust of our earth and thus made us. Genesis 2:7. When God made us, the words of King James Version of the book of Genesis read, "And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth over the land. So God created man in his image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them." If God were purely male, how could both men and women be made in his image? If God were alone at the beginning of time, why would he say, "Let us make man in our image"? But who was with God when he created men and women in his image? The angels above and the earth below. When God decided to breathe life into us, he breathed that life into the dust of the ground, the flesh of the earth. But why did he not make us by hand and out of fire like the angels? Clearly, he wanted us to be of the earth, of the flesh, even as we carry his spirit. He must have truly loved the earth as a bride for him, destined to join him in the marriage supper of the Lamb, from Revelation 19. God very well could have created us out of fire, out of energy, as the angels. He is the most powerful force in the universe, master of the day of judgment. He cannot be known by any of us, for where were we when the firmament's foundations were laid? He could surely have created us each by hand if that were his will, but he wanted us to be of the dust. He wanted us to be of the dust in order to ennoble the dust. In order to come into the earth and breathe through our bodies of her dust, giving life to every one of us, in order to bring our earth and his spirit together. The earth is a force in itself. We in the All Faith Church of Liberation believe that force is feminine, and though not conscious as we are, she is sentient. Where then is her consciousness? It is in us, just as our consciousness of God dwells within us. God gives us knowledge of our soul. Mother Earth gives us knowledge of our body, the consciousness of the body. If you've ever hugged your partner, your parent, or your child, you felt this consciousness, an energy between you. Animals have this goddess love too. A mother chicken with her eggs, and then later her chicks. A mother cat with her kittens. Even atoms, especially those with opposite charges, cluster together. This is how God made the universe. This is how God made his earth, who should be his helpmeet. Feelings of the body, and for the spirit we feel to protect our own body and the bodies and health of our loved ones, connect us with the earth around us. Love for our partners, love for our children and our parents, love for our friends, our neighbors, love for whatever pets or livestock we take care of, love for family, for community, love for life. We believe we are called to bring this mother body back into harmony with the Father's Spirit within us. Why do we say the earth is a goddess? Our Mother Earth. Is this not idolatry? Putting gods before God? No. She is not before God. She is in love with him. She works with him to bring forth all life, to truly free him from the prison that we have put him in, the cage of words we've built, bar by bar, stone by stone around him. We need to bring him back into her arms, back into our arms. For before we ever thought about, let alone worship Mother Earth, God had already ennobled her. He trusted her to bring forth life from the seas and the land. Genesis 1:11 through 12, 20 through 21, 20 and 24. God says, bring forth, let the earth bring forth. He didn't do it himself. He asked the earth to do it, or commanded her to do it, however you want to see it. but she became partnered to him in the creation of us. This is why evolution and creation really are not fighting. If you really sense the spiritual aspect, the poetic aspect, and then the physical aspect, the physical is all of us coming out of the earth in the way evolutionists say, but the spiritual aspect is that it's the Spirit of God with that Mother Earth that made us. And you can listen to it or not. You don't have to acknowledge any of this, but hopefully this will give you something to make holy your experience of just breathing, because really you're a beautiful person, and so is everyone. And that's part of why we wanted to start this church. But let me go on with the thing that was a little divergent from. He allowed her flesh, the dust he gathered, to become a vital part of us. And in his plan, he further ennobled the dust of the earth by sending his Spirit through Mother Mary to give birth to Jesus Christ, and thus to fuse himself with his creation. The devil divides people against each other. You see it all over the world today. Our country is so divided it's ridiculous. Over some politicians having an argument, and the deeper fight between mother forces and father forces in the world. Father forces of God, righteous but not forgiving. Mother forces, not as interested in righteous, but definitely more about, getting everyone together in a big kind of lovey pile of happiness. This is the two forces that everybody's going through, and neither of them are evil, but they have to be brought together. Otherwise, you'll have the fight that was all over the Bible, that's all over our streets today. As I say, the devil divides God's people against each other, and all of us are God's people. Never more so than today in our intolerant Facebook, Twitter culture. Each of us finds ourselves loyal to groups which we think just like ourselves, and these groups are always shrinking as different factions hate on each other, other factions, for something said or done that was misunderstood. One of the biggest divisions the devil revels in amongst God's people today is the fight upon how we view the earth and how it came to be, the fight between fundamentalism and evolution. But let us look at it more closely. The power of the secular scientific world tends to deny God, but it is an overreaction of God's people to deny science altogether. And it is not necessary to do that for faith. Faith and science do not actually contradict each other. They apply to different parts of the human experience. The poetic and the prose. Both of them are necessary for a book, but to delve into one or the other, you miss the point of one or the other if you demand a division. Faith and science do not actually contradict each other. According to the King James Version of the book of Genesis, God did not just make us all up without help. This is a misunderstanding many people of faith have in feeling they must defend God against the tide of atheism in the world today. This might be fundamentalism today, but it is not actually reading the Bible according to true fundamental, that is, by the literal word, understanding of the Holy Scripture. Nowhere does it say in the first book of Genesis that God just made up all the creatures of the world. Other than the whales, certain herbs, and us, most every species was trusted to the earth's own ways to arise. God let the earth bring forth the life of the world according to her own natural processes. You see this in Genesis 1, 11 through 12, 20 through 21, and 24. He let the animals arise from the seas and the lands, each species after his own kind. So in other words, it evolved that there were seeds in these things, in these trees, in people. That's from Genesis 1, 11, and 21. He worked with the earth and her creatures, who multiplied and filled the seas and the land, Genesis 1:22. A crucial error many folk make nowadays is to choose either fundamentalism or evolutionism as their base for knowledge. The error folk make is that it has to be a choice between them, as if they were mutually exclusive ideas. But it is the devil who delights in our fights. He laughs at us for our communities, and even our families are cut into factions. But if we look fundamentally at the first chapter of Genesis in the King James Version of the Bible, it is clear a true fundamentalist reading of that chapter leads one to conclude that God worked with evolution, with the natural processes of the earth that brought forth the animals and the plants and the sea and the land. God trusted the earth to come up with her own way, and that is how we evolved. That's really right there in the first two chapters of Genesis. God could have said, I command this to happen. But he said, let the earth bring forth. He literally said, here, earth, you do it the way you do it. And she did. God trusted the earth's natural processes to bring forth his plan. God allowed us all. His intelligent design allowed the earth's natural forces to bring forth all of us in his image. Why do God's people fear the goddess? Because I know there's people out there who's like, well, I like what you're saying, but this idea of a goddess is separate from God. We are the goddess. We are the mother's body, all of us from the mother of our own mother. Everything, whether male, female, trans, intersex, any kind of person we are, we come from our mother. Everything I've got is from my mom. And so it's the same for you. And eventually it all becomes Mother Earth because that's our grandmother released the earth. Why do God's people fear the goddess or loving the body and the earth as if it were a goddess? What is wrong with having reverence for our planet? Our Mother Earth has been worshipped for many thousands of years under many different names. Why did God so abhor this worship of the mother? For often in the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament, God commands the destruction of goddess altars, symbols, poles, trees, and idols. The idol is called Asherim, from the goddess Asherah. I'll put right here. There'll be all the references that I have found of this in the Old Testament. Feel free to look them up yourself. Why did God oppose the goddess in those days? It was because she was very cruel in what she demanded of her people. She often demanded heavy and taxing sacrifices, even of newborn children, to feed her hunger. And I'm not talking about abortion as symbolic. I'm talking about the actual, you had a baby and you brought it to the altar of Moloch, or you brought it to the altar of Astaroth. You killed your own child for the priests and kings of those countries. The understanding that folk had of the goddess, the names they hung on her, that we created over that force, were vicious, hungry tyrants. The goddess in her old forms could never live alongside God the Father. The worship of the goddess angered the God of the Hebrew Bible and continued to vex the early Christians. But recall the previous essay, or the previous video we had, Who is God? He is the old God of the law, the God of wrath and righteousness. Is he the same God as the Abba or Daddy of Jesus Christ? Clearly, he must be the same God. So what has changed? What has brought a feminine softness into the wrath of God? It is the experience God had, and each of us has, in the person of Jesus Christ. Like each of us, God has grown. And with each of us, God has grown. For the old God is like the chrysalis the new God of Christ's love emerges from. And with him, the old goddess, who once demanded sacrifice of newborns to feed her power, has also changed. How have they changed? The book of Revelation speaks of the old Garden of Eden and the new garden which we shall inherit. Just as we were not ready for the tree of knowledge and the tree of life when we were children, as Adam and Eve, now, with the promise of Christ, we can eat the fruit of both these trees. That's in Revelation 2:7 and 22:2 and 22:14. We are ready to live together in peace in the garden, having done what we've done with knowledge of good and evil, ready to taste of eternal life. It is Jesus Christ and his gospel of love and forgiveness who makes us finally ready for the gift of the trees of life and knowledge and all that is natural in the garden. The law is gone. Only love remains. And thus it is that a new goddess can emerge from the old, just as a new god emerges from the old god. Instead of the whore of Babylon, which is really more properly the madam of Babylon, the person who arranges and knows the secrets of all the leaders. That's the power. It's not a sex worker herself. It's someone who runs, great, armies of such. The parallel to certain things that people have said about the ruling class today and their kind of rather nasty things they like to do behind closed doors or right in front of you. Nothing to do with sexuality, nothing to do with sex work. It's more how all of it is being used by evil against the goodness of what could be. Instead of the whore of Babylon, the madam who procures unwilling sex workers for the powerful, the woman who pimps the whole world, the power who knows everyone's closets and extorts the powerful and the powerless, the sexually addicting, cruel and haughty, oppressive and tyrannical goddess of Rome, arrayed in fine and royal robes, drunk with the blood of the righteous. We have a new image of the goddess that appears with Christ in her womb. She is crowned, this image of motherhood, with 12 stars, symbolizing completion and hearkening back to the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. This new goddess, the mother of Christ, the mother of all of us, opposes and condemns the goddess of sex slavery and slavery to all other addictions of vanity and selfishness. And it is she, the renewed goddess of the earth, that joins the Lamb in the holy marriage supper, Revelation 19:7-8. Old Mother Earth, who was before we ever shaped graven images of her or hung a name on her, rejects the designs of Satan in Revelations, and the whore of Babylon he uses to destroy the faithful. The image that Satan hung on her. This is not her natural thing. It's what she's been forced to do in a dominated world of a patriarchy. Patriarchy is from Satan. It's trying to take God's rights away and make it the rights of an emperor or a Caesar or a king or any kind of devilish thing like that. He uses to destroy the faithful. The image that Satan hung on her incides with her new name, her new form, Mother Mary. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Revelation 12:16. Old earth sides with Mother Mary over the dragon, controller of the goddess of Babylon, and takes on a new face, the bride of the Lamb, the wife who hath made herself ready. And that's Revelation 19:7-9, and then 21:9. And together the spirit of the bride beckon to all of us, and the spirit of the bride say, Come, and let him who heareth say, Come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. Revelation 22:17. Just a few lines before the end of the Bible, that. Her children, the people of God, who sit together with the bride in the marriage supper of the Lamb, are recorded as having the same garb as she, fine linen, clean and white. Revelation 19:8 and 19:14. Why are the people of God, his soldiers, clothed in the same garments as the goddess? It is because they and the goddess are one. All of them, all of us, the body of the church, the bride of the Christ at the marriage supper of the Lamb. We are the goddess. Our bodies of dust are her. And the promise of Christ is that our bodies will not oppose God, but become one with him. We are all symbolically pregnant with the Christ that we are called to become. We're born again of ourselves. Each of us carrying the child that is our future selves. This Christ idea in each of us that will eventually burst forth from us as our new identity, our new names. Revelation 2:17. Clearly from the times of the Torah to the time of the Revelation, our mother goddess has grown. The same as the God of the Old Testament has grown in love to be for us a daddy, an Abba, because of us softening him. And then him realizing he had gone too far and started to be with us. It is the goddess brought into God by the love of Christ, which allows God to soften and become our daddy. Our bodies are often in rebellion against God's old law. We have many urges which can lead us into addiction. An addictive attitude toward lust, toward love, toward substances and activities which give us pleasure. There's nothing wrong with pleasure. It's being addicted to it and then being selfish and cruel with each other to try to compete for it. That's where it all gets bad. The part of us that is flesh can have its own mind. Our bodies can be cruel goddesses, as the old goddesses of the Bible, demanding devotion to our urges as if they were religion. Yet God made us to be embodied in the flesh. Why did he give us this contradictory nature? Part his spirit, but part our bodies. He did this to give us the adventure of living that he experiences, coming into the flesh in the person of Jesus Christ. He becomes Christ. We become Christ. We share that with him. We share the flesh and spirit together. That's the great thing about our God. He isn't like a lot of other gods that, used the earth and fought against other gods. He actually wants to fuse with all of us through this message. Jesus came here to forgive the flesh and to show how to bring it in accord with the higher spirit. Jesus embodied God, the enfleshed human being who is one with God. Jesus is the messenger of the gospel of love, replacing the law. He brings a feminine forgiveness into the totality of God. Thus, he is the bridge between masculine and feminine. He is, therefore, the Alpha and the Omega, both the birth and the death. God couldn't experience any of that if he hadn't come and been with us in that. A man of both God's law and the goddess's love. Our bodies quake and stir, challenging us to be true to both our bodies and the spirit within them. Just as the earth now quakes and stirs in her anger in partnership with his, disturbing the climate of the earth as a way of frustrating our human attempts to live without him. To frustrate our human attempts to rape the earth and take too much of her bounty for our selfish desires. The reason God opposed Goddess in the biblical times was that she was selfish, demanding unbelievable devotion from her children, even unto killing their own children in sacrifice to her. But now the goddess has come into a new reality in us, a body united with the spirit, a goddess that serves righteousness and love for her children, all of us, a goddess who protects her baby that is Jesus Christ, that is all of us, that we then with her protect. Then we protect the young and old, as we would protect God and Goddess together. The natural processes that brought forth all life, including we human beings, are made sacred by the very image of motherhood. And the child, the Christ, is something which we all of us have kinship with. The very purpose of human life is to become him. It's Revelation 3:21. For more of this, scroll down to the essay, Who is Christ? We'll get to that in the next video. The goddess, the earth, forgives all, embracing her arms to welcome us into death when our time upon her skin is spent. All, sinner and saint, human, animal, and plant, all alike rot into the earth. There is no judgment from our Holy Mother, who melts us all into her embrace when life is gone from us. She is the one who strives to melt us into her, a balm against rancor, against argument, so that no one may be judged, so that all in the human family may eat together in peace. This is the mercy that Jesus Christ came unto all of us to communicate. This is the mercy and forgiveness from God's hard law that Jesus Christ demonstrated over and over again during his ministry, healing on the Sabbath, forgiving those who could not measure up to the law. On the goddess earth, our world, there are many species that deviate from what we might expect. Some of these deviations center around sexuality and gender. From nature's book, what actually exists tangibly and cannot be disputed except to deny the facts, at least 10 major species are gender variable, gender fluid, including bearded dragons, clownfish, wrasse, banana slugs, whiptail lizards, the official state reptile of New Mexico, cuttlefish, parrotfish, blackfin goby, garter snakes, and frogs. All these species have recorded instances of males becoming females, females becoming males, hermaphroditism, which is both male and female, as is the case with banana slugs, or males and females impersonating one another. All of them have seen this in experiments. They've seen this happen. In a sense, each of these species defy the old Mosaic law of not wearing the garments of the other gender. Deuteronomy 22:5, which is very famous. People throw around to be intolerant. But I don't know. But all of these creatures came to be because the earth and the waters brought them forth, all in partnership with our Lord, the Father of the universe. Our goddess, the earth, who clothes us in our flesh so that we can hold the Spirit of God, strays from our own ideas of gender, clothing many of her children, the creatures of her world, sometimes as male, sometimes as female, sometimes as something beyond such a binary polarity. Yet God looked upon all his creation in partnership with Mother Earth, as very good. Genesis 1:31. He looked at all that and said it was good. The earth that brought forth all the creations of that God wished for the earth to do has made species that defy the conventional binary understandings of gender and sexuality. Much of the division and discord the devil has wrought in our country and our worlds today stems from different understandings and judgment people have toward one another over sexuality and gender. Those on one side condemn gays, lesbians, bisexuals, trans folk, and others as sinful. Those on the other side see their sexual freedom as a precious gift of God and condemn the intolerance of those who do not understand them. But this discord does not arise from God, nor does it arise from the goddess, even as she brings more and more people out of the closets they've been forced into. The goddess promotes all kinds of sexualities and identities, not just procreation. In fact, many of these sexualities and identities favor practices that cannot lead to procreation. This is part of the earth's desire for less of us human beings on the planet. But this will not stop humanity from continuing. Most people still embrace the heterosexual lifestyle, still want to raise their families. What may happen is that population boom will lessen as a segment of the population does not reproduce or adopts the children already born. And a more reasonable, for the earth, human population will come to be over the next generations. But the discord folk have now over these issues are not from God or the goddess. The discord is a direct result of the devil's playing with us all against one another. The devil has poisoned the flesh, raped our mother bodies, and turned us against the peace of God. The devil laughs at us for our hatreds and our inability to get along, and our judgment of each other. Loves that, laughs at us. Our inability to be united people of God. And the Christ shows the way to triumph over the devil, to bring him to heal, and to bring the God and the goddess and all of us into the marriage supper of the Lamb, Revelation 19, that promise at the end. And the next several videos will describe the devil and how he does this, and then the Christ message, and then we'll eventually get to something beyond the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Zoroastrianism, get into something called, the rest of the world. So the Buddhist concepts, the Hindu concepts, they have to be brought in too, because Mara is the name we give samsara, the endless frustrations of living forever and never dying and then dying all the time and all that kind of stuff. It has to also be dealt with, and we in our faith deal with it too. You might see that this is a Star of David. You might see this is a crescent of Islam. And of course you see the cross of Christianity. This is also a circle of Buddhism also in there, which you may or may not appreciate, but you would now have told you. All of them together is a united, we have to see all of them together because they're all, whether we're background prepares us for it, we have to be ready to see all of this together as one challenge to our human family that we hopefully will all will find a way to help each other answer and have the love we should have as Christ commanded. Please stay tuned for the next video on Who the Devil.